begins this Thursday, and we'll be talking to Vinny Serrato later this hour about it. And the winning word is on the way, your chance to win a fabulous trip to the ESPYs. And, of course, the biggest story, I suppose, the one that probably more people are talking about than anything else, is the fight this weekend. Right. And over the course of the weekend this past, on Outside the Lines, they were talking a lot about Floyd Mayweather and his history. And that according to police and court documents obtained by OTL, Mayweather has been convicted 5 times for incidents dating back more than 14 years, including incidents in which he punched Melissa Brem, the mother of his oldest daughter, 3 times in the face, leaving fresh bruises. Another incident in which he struck her in the neck. Incidents of hitting and punching with a closed fist, grabbing by the hair, striking in the back of the head. This is another person at this time. And, of course, it brings up all of the many questions about Floyd Mayweather and his very ugly history with domestic violence, which has been well documented.
Yes, it has.
And somewhat startlingly under-discussed over the course of the build-up to this fight. And when I say under-discussed, I obviously mean in comparison to all the conversation that took place regarding Ray Rice and or Greg Hardy and or Roger Goodell and or the National Football League. And I've heard a lot of different explanations for it. One of them, of course, is that the NFL is more popular than everything else. People are much more interested in the NFL than they are in anything else, and that's obviously true. But even as Greg Hardy was not a star in the NFL. He's a great player, but he's not a star. Ray Rice was a star. But even a star like Ray Rice isn't nearly as big a star in our society, in our culture, as Floyd Mayweather is. Floyd Mayweather is one of the most famous athletes that we have and the richest. So the question is, why has this not been discussed? Should it be a bigger story? Are the people who make a big deal out of it in the National Football League being hypocritical by doing less so when it comes to the build-up to the fight? And all of those questions, they're all very good, valid, interesting questions. I enjoyed the discussion this weekend. Sure. I struggle sometimes to make up my own mind exactly what I think on the topic. What were you thinking, Mike, as you were listening to the discussion?
Well, I mean, listen, you read the rap sheet of Floyd Mayweather and you see what he did. It's reprehensible, and I continue to say anybody who abuses women or abuses children, in my mind, is a coward to have to do that. The guy makes a living with his fists, and he's using them on a woman. It's horrible. Absolutely. What he was convicted of by the judge before it went to a trial, and we read the description of it, is deplorable. It's horrific. Here's where I wonder is where we are. Because one of the things I said about Greg Hardy, and when I went on my, what I said about his 10 games, and I think 10 games is fine, and let him sit for his 10 games. He may get less with the appeal. We'll see. But what I said is whether it's 10 games, whether it's 8 games, whether it's 6 games, when he comes back, you know what I'll do? I'll watch him as he plays. Yeah. Okay? It doesn't mean I'll stand up and cheer for the guy, ever want to break bread with the guy or anything like that. But, there are plenty of people maybe you don't like in the acting world or the music world, but you like their music or you like their acting, so you go see him, you pay your money to go do it, or maybe you don't. It's up to you. But as I said, with a Greg Hardy, I'm just using, he's the latest case here, when I watch the Cowboys play, I'll watch and see what he does. And he has every right to then be back out on the field playing because he served his time. So I put that to the boxing. These are all the things you read all have to do with the police, correct? Mm-hmm. Is there anything that has to do with boxing? Did boxing do anything? Did boxing step in and suspend him? Did boxing do any of these things? So I get, and the answer is...
Well, see, the problem is there is no boxing.
That's exactly my point.
Boxing doesn't, the way you're saying it doesn't exist.
So exactly my point. So we get conditioned to, you do something wrong, you're suspended, you come back, you play. You do something wrong, sometimes you go to jail, i.e. Michael Vick. You come back, you're suspended, and you come back and you play and we watch you. So we kind of get used to it. Doesn't make the act any better. Listen, what Michael Vick did was reprehensible as well. But we watched Michael Vick play after that, right? He served his time, and we watch him play. Doesn't mean you have to like him, and maybe some people never did watch him. But it doesn't mean you have to like him, certainly what he did. Doesn't mean you have to like Greg Hardy or what he did, but you'll watch him. Doesn't mean maybe you'll choose not to. And the same with Floyd Mayweather. I think we've become accustomed to Has he been suspended? Good. Suspend him. Let him sit. Look at what he did. It's horrible. He had to serve time in jail. Then where's the suspension from his league, from his commissioner? Sit him down, and then when they come back, you say, okay, he's paid his debt to society and or to his league, so now he gets to play. Don't have to like him, but I'm going to watch him. So in this case, there is no league. There is no commissioner. There is no boxing stepped in and said, you sit for this amount of time. So it all has to do with the law. He served some jail time. He had these incidents. He was convicted. He's gone through all of that, and now he is where he is. So I wonder if in our heads we say, well, he served whatever time he had to serve, did what he had to do. There's nobody in the sport, because the sport in that instance is ridiculous in any kind of uniformity to do anything about it. So you watch him. Again, doesn't mean you have to like him. There's nothing about that situation I like about that guy. Are you kidding me? So, But he served his time. Doesn't make it any better what you think of him. Certainly not me. But then you watch him. You know,
I do understand what you're saying. Yes, of course. Your point is well taken. It's the right point. The legal system handled it however it handled it. And there are a lot of other. Look, coincidentally, Kurt Busch won his first race of the year yesterday. This after he served a three-race suspension, for what was described in the news article here as for conduct off the track. What it actually was he was suspended after being charged with domestic violence. He was reinstated after a district attorney in Delaware declined to press charges. His quote, "It's an unbelievable feeling when you pull deep from within and you go through troubles, and you know when you're accused of something and things go sideways, your personal life doesn't need to affect your business life." You had Brittany Griner, maybe the best-known player in the WNBA, involved in an incident recently, and people talking about it. And then you'll start hearing people asking the question, why is there selective outrage? Why is this a big deal and this isn't a big deal? You know, there's no book on how you're supposed to deal with this. We are so much more aware. Maybe the one good thing I can think of to say about all of this is that we are so much more aware now of domestic violence issues than we've ever been before, certainly in my understanding of it. I'm much more aware of it. I'm hearing much more talk about it. I'm hearing much more about the seriousness of it. I'm hearing much more about why certain things. I have never really fully understood why certain cases didn't wind up coming to trial and all that kind of stuff, and I have a better understanding of it now. But the complicated part of it is when you're talking about someone like Mayweather, who, A, is as fully unrepentant as he is. I mean, fully
incredibly.
If you listen to his interview with John Barr.
In your case, there's been actual convictions, and no governing body has ever suspended you or sanctioned you. What message do you think that sends victims of domestic violence?
I say I want everybody to tune in May 2nd. Mayweather versus Pacquiao. This is a fight that you can't miss.
You have no desire to answer that question?
I'm blessed to be where I'm at. You know, I have 4 beautiful children, and I'm truly blessed to be where I'm at today. And with hard work and dedication, you can be anywhere in life.
Well,
so there's a lot of that. So there's a lot of not non-repentance. The difference between Floyd Mayweather, for example, and Greg Hardy, if you want to draw one, and you don't have to, or whatever the case may be, but if you want to, you can say, with Greg Hardy, you're watching a football game. You're watching a lot of people play a football game. The money that you're paying, if you are paying, and in the case of a football game, you don't have to pay anything to watch it necessarily. But if you do buy tickets and whatever else it is, you're giving it to the larger, as opposed to with this, when you plunk down your, I think it's $99 for the fight in HD, you're basically just writing him a check.
Yep.
And
I know that you're paying him.
Right. And I think that there are some people who will look at that and say, I don't want to. I've seen Dan Dockich tweeting about this, as well as several others, saying, I don't want to do that. I don't want to just write a check to him based upon what he's done. And I suppose each person will have to make up his or her own mind how they feel on a subject like this.
Absolutely right. I mean, with Mayweather, basically, it's about just obviously hating what he did, because the last issue happened on September 10th. He went to jail of a 90-day...
September of 2010.
September 2010. He went to jail in 2012 for a 90-day sentence, but was out in 2 months. So it's been over. He's fought 6 times since that went on. So, and I know people had talked about it then, but more of it is being brought up now. I guess my point is, what he did is horrific. As I said, you're a cowardly human being if you do something like that. And I'll never change my mind on that. But he's fought 6 times since then. Has there been as much outrage then? No, because it's this huge fight.
Nothing's gotten as much attention as this. It's
exactly
the same reason that no situation involving Brittany Griner is ever going to get as much attention as a situation involving Floyd Mayweather or involving Ray Rice, because one of them plays in the WNBA, and half the people don't even know who it is.
So my feelings of Mayweather haven't changed, but people say, well, you're going to buy the fight. Yeah, I'm going to buy the fight. I'm going to buy the fight, and I'm going to watch the fight. You can watch somebody. It doesn't mean you have to like them for what they stand for outside their profession, correct?
Of course not. In the same way that you don't have to do that, you drew a good parallel earlier with music. Do you think every musician whose work you enjoy, be they current or past, was someone that you would want to have to dinner in your house?
Yeah.
But if you enjoy the music, you enjoy the music. And I think Michael Smith, when he was in here the other day, used a good word. You compartmentalize to some degree.
Right.
I'm looking forward to watching the fight. I'm interested in seeing what happens in the fight. I do not believe, and I appreciate the view of those who say, I will not support this and I don't pay for it.
Absolutely
what I do not appreciate is people telling me or anyone else that if you watch the fight, that it makes you a hypocrite, or if you watch the fight, you're somehow a bad human being, you're somehow tacitly condoning domestic violence by paying for / watching the fight. I can't necessarily give you if I had to defend it legally, why I do not believe one leads to the other, but I'm telling you I do not accept that. I do not accept that it means I don't care about domestic violence to say that I'm interested in watching the fight.
I completely agree. As I said, it's deplorable. You know what I think of people that do it. I've said it time and time again in this show. But compartmentalize, I think.